Okay, so this is our first podcast at Rhodes Chiropractic, and so I want to introduce our first guests here. I have Joe and Tatiana Baez, and they are with the Baez Family Fitness. So they run a fitness business out of their home, and it's really grown a lot. I know you guys have been working on this for the past 10 years or so, and we can talk about that growth here a little bit more. But I think you guys have an awesome story. We met each other at Athey Creek, where we go to church. That's kind of where it all started. But you're a rock solid couple, beautiful inside and out. But you walk the walk. Joe, you played 3 sports in college. Basketball.
I played. Well, we're already.
Okay. All right. We're fibbing a little bit here.
No, I played a year of college basketball, but I played 3 sports. I was a 3-sport athlete in high school.
In high school.
Yeah. I wanted to let you go with it though, so badly.
Okay. All right.
I was kind of feeling good about it.
So Tatiana's the real athlete here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. This is why I work hard.
Right.
Is because
I'm wondering how you pulled that off.
It's the Lord is good. That's
Exactly.
really all it comes down to.
Exactly. So when you played at Florida State,
I did.
that is quite amazing. That's not easy playing on a D1 team, Florida State, and we're in multiple College World Series, right?
Yes. We went to 2. So 2 of my 4 years there, we competed at the World Series, and even after I left, I mean, the program has been amazing.
That's awesome. So yeah, you guys have been in health, fitness, athletics your whole life. And I also know you recently just left a dream job at Nike. So an incredible company here in the Portland, Oregon area. And you're so passionate about your business that you walked away from that to help people along their health and fitness journey.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty amazing too. And I'll probably ask you a few questions on that. And a little bit about your personal life. You guys have 2 beautiful kids that are coloring upstairs and hanging out.
Hopefully not on the walls.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Hopefully not adjusting people yet. Maybe future Kairos.
Our son, you gotta look out for that. There's a good chance he's gonna do a good
He's
job.
an outspoken person. I've seen him at church just amen, yelling.
Hey.
Yeah, that's great.
Hey, that young man has helped us get plugged up in that church for sure.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So Clayton, how old is he?
He's 9, and
9?
we've got Skylar, who's 4.
Skylar.
Yep.
Yeah, sweet as can be. Beautiful family. I just think you guys have a great story. And I know we were just talking about this a second ago, but I think you guys are a perfect first guest to have on our podcast. So within our clinic, obviously we help people with neck pain, back pain, headaches, sciatica, people from, big injuries from car accidents and things like that. And through that journey, it is hard to find time to really talk about, nutrition. It's hard to talk about fitness routines and getting into working out, because that really can be, like you guys mentioned on your website, it's really a transformation. It's hard to just kind of watch one little video and okay, I got it. And so it's hard for us to fully implement some of those nutrition strategies or fitness strategies. And so I thought this would be great on our first podcast to give our patients, other viewers, or we have many other chiropractors, health and wellness professionals that'll be listening to this. And I thought it could be a good resource for our patients to potentially work with you guys or just, help them along their fitness journey. Anything that you guys wanted to add as far as, I know you're running your business out of your house right now. And I think it's so cool that it's a community feel and you're really involving the whole family. So can you maybe just give us, a quick couple of minute, recap on where your business is at, what the feel is like and what all you guys do?
Yeah. You want to go? You want me to go?
You can kick it out.
And then I have a few questions. I'll kind of be a patient, so to speak, and ask you a few questions here in a little bit. Yeah. But I think for the listeners, it'd be awesome just to fully understand. And you guys are Beaverton or Tigard?
Like Cedar Mill, Bethany area.
Okay.
So technically Portland, but we're like outside Beaverton.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, anything that I miss, and just fill us in on how your business works, what you guys do.
Sure. Yeah. So we,
make sure you're kind of close to that mic.
Let me get that. Might have to put the headphones on.
Yeah.
It's almost like we kind of do a mix of like PT, bodybuilding, and powerlifting, right? So we're not physical therapists, but our approach is, and anytime we get clients in, we're always going to start at the ground floor with like feet to shoulders. Are we dealing with pain? Is there any limitations we have? So if I have a young athlete, maybe like a high school athlete, I'm going to ask that same question, versus if it's someone in their 60s or 70s, I'm going to ask that question, but we're going to ask it differently because the goal of that body is different, right? So pain-free is huge, right? Trying to be as pain-free as possible, and then building strength and being able to move well, like having mobility and strength, right? So, that's essentially what we do. Is we want to get people as closely as possible, if not all the way out of pain, and then strengthen them, but strengthen them with the ability to move also. Because if we don't have strength, like that's kind of the backbone of this, right? Is the essentialness of having strength. We just really want to make sure that like we're in an empowered space. We can move well, whether it's for sport or for just everyday life functionally.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
That's
I
awesome.
would say that passion and how we built around those main things is really from our experience. And so things that we've learned all the years that we've been powerlifting or strength training, we noticed some elements that we kind of wanted to bring it all together. And then you also mentioned the family environment. That's extremely important to us, and exactly how we started, which is why it's called By Swimmy Fitness, because we realized when our son came along in 2015, we'd be working out in the gym together as a family all the time. And we just realized the fruit that would come from that, and how amazing that was to create a family environment where everyone can get exposed to the strength training.
Right. I think that's so awesome that you were passing your baby around doing squats with him. And
have you seen the pictures? That's exactly.
Well, I think we put it in the.
Oh, we did.
Yeah. And Brienne has these, amazing biceps, and people are like, how do you get these? Just toting around that baby and doing squats with them. And, I think that's awesome. Integrating the family, and we kind of do that at home too. And our kids are always like, can we work out?
And it's so important, right? Because they're seeing, right? They're seeing this. And I don't think we always realize that until all of a sudden our 4-year-old will ask us to put, 25 pounds on a little 5-pound deadlift bar and do it. And she's watching, right? So, it's like, it's true, right? More is caught than taught. And I think those are the things that we've realized. Even doing this, I don't think we completely grasp it sometimes.
Sure.
But man, it's been super fruitful and powerful. And then also creating that environment and having our clients send us messages and pictures of, trying to do a plank and their 2-year-olds crawling all over them, or like they're seeing this, right? They're seeing the empowerment of, wow, mom and dad are taking care of their bodies, right?
Yeah.
And then it's just a generational thing, right? Because we always talk about, when I'm dealing with young athletes, I always talk about the scripture, Colossians 3:23, right? We work heartily unto the Lord and not unto men. And this is what gets passed down, that we can better serve our communities, we can better serve our families. It's just more enjoyable. I think one of the challenges with this is people think it's like almost like an all or nothing game. Like if I can't bench press my body weight, then what's the point?
Yeah.
But really it's like strength is relative. So if you're in a sport or you are in something like CrossFit or powerlifting, like there's obviously the benefit of the sport, and that's fun, but we get just as much joy in ourselves as getting out of injury or pain or getting someone else out of pain. And I think that's where a lot of the noise comes in, where it's like we just want to throw our hands up because we're not elite level athletes, when really we just might need to get out of back pain. Right?
Yeah. And that's kind of one of my questions for you. I'll kind of ask questions that our patients ask, and maybe we'll kind of start more on the working out, the fitness side. And then maybe the second half, we can talk about the nutrition, the eating. I I think a lot of people might even know what macros are and things like that. And I see you guys are on the raw milk train as well.
Yes.
Getting that raw milk on the black market. We can talk about that in a second, but that's important too.
The FBI is going to show up now.
I know.
Tony, you're putting us on blast here.
I know, right? We can talk about that more here in a second, but Brianne's got her milk ladies, the group chat milk ladies. So
that's great.
It's great.
That.
Great. We probably have the same dealer, but but okay, so let's start doing. So let's take someone that's maybe, our age, 30s, 40s, that has had that and they're starting to feel better, a lot less pain. This is the question I always get. What kind of workout should I be doing? Should I be doing weight training? Should I be doing cardio? Like within the Portland area, I think running is such a big thing that people love to do. But I always say the definition of an oxymoron is fun run. I'm like, I don't like running. So, so should I do weights? Should I do cardio? Should I do HIIT, Pilates? Like there's all these different, should I get a Peloton? What should I be doing? So if you had a client come to you like that, what kind of advice would you give for somebody like that? What's better, weights, cardio, cycling? What would you guys kind of start someone out on?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think it's a common question, right? I think that when we look at something like this, it's almost like you want to put things into buckets, right? So if you get someone who's out of pain and they say, okay, cool, I'm feeling better. I think I should go run, right? The challenge with that is running is almost like a sport. So running can be beneficial to us, but if we don't have our body built in a way to absorb the force from something like running, then we could potentially run into the same problems, if not worse, right?
Right.
So our advice is always, like what I'll do with our clients is I'll take them through a series of exercises where I'll be able to see if there's certain weaknesses in certain movements they have, whether it be the foot, ankle, knee, hip, shoulder, back. I can kind of get a gauge, right, of like a standard they should maybe have from a strength perspective. I've got a client right now who's a contractor and dealing with back issues. So squats and deadlifts, I think, are great to do, but not for him right now, right?
Okay.
So we start at the ground floor with basic things. And the problem with that is it takes time,
right,
and a lot of patience, right?
Right.
So with that, though, I think what's more important than what should I do is what can I do consistently over and over and over.
Right.
And then, hopefully this is what I would want, like for myself as a fitness professional and other fitness professionals, is to try to explain to people like correlation and causation, right? Your back is sore, not just because of your back, but potentially because of your ankle and your knee and your hip. Right. So you put them in these positions. So I personally feel like what is most beneficial is starting at a ground floor strength and mobility program.
Okay.
Because things like cardio and HIIT, they can be beneficial, but a lot of times, like if someone comes to me to strength train, they're getting proper coaching. If you go out for a run, myself included, I'm not being trained on how to run properly. So though that's like an easier entry point, I think it's always encouraged that like we build the body to strengthen it, because it's just essential. Your body cannot function without strength, but it also can't function if it doesn't move well. So we've really tried to marry those two things.
Okay. So definitely in the beginning, kind of in a way, would you say doesn't necessarily matter where they're coming in at? Everyone, that there's a foundational beginning for them. Totally. Just like building a house, you build that foundation first before you start building the first, second, third floor. Okay. Right. And then would you say after that, it kind of depends on their goals. Is it weight gain? Is it weight loss? Is it flexibility? And then you start tailoring a program that way. Is that the way you guys kind of do it?
Yeah, I would say yes. And Joe did mention this, but we do still believe that strength training is essential in any of those things, because you're building your body to essentially perform a sport, even though we don't think of it that way. So we would recommend some form of strength training or something where you are building your muscles, because there's so many benefits, like increased metabolism, bone density,
right,
reduce body fat, just things of that nature that could help
Right.
aid in anything you want to do.
right,
I would add to, just like he had mentioned, starting at the foundation, we try to recommend to start small, because I think too often we try to bite off more than we can chew, and we can't be sustainable and consistent. And then the next thing is we give up,
right,
and then we don't do anything.
right.
And I always say, like, there's a reason why Jan 1 every gym is full. And right around now is when it starts to thin out a little.
Right.
It's not just because people don't want to do this, but I feel like being motivated to start is different than being disciplined to continue.
Right.
Right. So exactly what she's saying is, I would rather someone, like, I have a client online right now who I trained in California when he was 17. He's 27 now.
Wow.
And I'm training him remote. He's in South Carolina.
So you guys do remote training too, and online? And
so we have an app. Yeah.
Okay.
So we have an app that we use, right? there's 50 to 60 exercise videos with tutorials. I'll program people. They can have on-demand workouts, right? And this kid, he's 27 now, but he was a kid when I was training him. He never misses. He's never missed. He's just sticking to the plan, and he's down like 23, 24 pounds, right?
That's awesome.
And it's nothing like earth shattering. Right?
Sure.
The thing is, like, I'm not reinventing the wheel.
Sure.
I'm just figuring out all these different wheels, and then I'm trying to put my like style on it, and then just we bring in like how we bring them in. But I think ultimately it's like exactly what she said. It's that consistency and sustainability over time, right? Because if you a good friend of mine who I coached under, we were talking about getting ready. We have a powerlifting meet next week, right? So I'm talking to him about hitting numbers, and I want to do this, and and he can feel it, the emotion, right?
Okay.
But like, he's reminding me, like, you're 40, right?
So you're doing the competition.
So we're gonna compete, the two of us, right? In a bench squat deadlift. We've been training for 8 weeks. We used to do that a ton when we were like early on in our careers, and then we kind of got back into it in the Oregon community. We were in California then.
Okay.
And he's like, look, man, if you put on 5 pounds to your squat once, like every month, that's 60 pounds in a year.
Right.
So if we have that mentality,
sure.
But the challenge is we don't see those immediate results.
Yeah.
And so we start to, I'm not seeing the weight loss. I'm not seeing it. And then all of a sudden it can happen. Right. So it's like trusting the process. And I always tell my clients, like, look, I have my recipe. Right. And I just want to, like, let's just submit to this plan, give it a little bit of time. And if it's not working out the way we want it to, like, hey, maybe we need to think about some other things. But it's like just being patient with this process and consistency over time. Right.
Yeah.
It's no different than if we're, investing money starting at 15, $50 a month versus, well, now we're 45 and we're going to try to make up for it by investing 10,000 a month. Like, that compound interest isn't working for us the way it would have, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same concept, and it's hard. It's hard for us, so that's kind of, I think, a big step is just that consistency, and then being patient, but also, like we talked about before we started rolling, it's noisy. The space is noisy. There's a million different programs, and I don't think anything is bad or wrong, but we have to dose it right. Right. There's nothing wrong with powerlifting, but if this is your first time in the weight room, we probably don't need to throw 405 on your back. Right. We just,
I've seen enough of those YouTube fails.
So just starting slow, man. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges for people is thinking doing a little is doing enough. Yeah. But it is.
Yeah. No, it's interesting that you laid it out that way. And that's often how we lay it out to our clients with, kind of transforming their spine. It does take months, and it kind of depends on where they're coming at, probably like with your clients, depending on their age, condition, severity of, let's say a diagnosis or something. Sometimes I'm like, you're going to be working with me for a good year. on this,
dude. And that's an investment.
Just
time,
that is how
right?
God made the body, and I can't change that. That's just what it's going to take if you want to naturally get better.
Well, then you think about like it may have taken 30 years of abuse to get to this point,
right?
And I'm coming to Dr. Rhodes. Hey, man, I got a tea time in 45 minutes.
Right.
Like, we got to get this thing rolling here.
Yep. So you can't give me a 6-pack overnight, huh?
I can, but we're going to need to bring in some surgeons, Tony.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We can do it. It's not going to be fun, and we're going to sign a waiver.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's awesome. So once someone has that foundational work built in, then, we can, throw some cardio in there, Pilates. And would you say it kind of depends on what that person enjoys and what they sort of, just feel good after doing?
Yes. Yeah. It's like Joe had mentioned, like he doesn't say anything is a bad thing.
Yeah.
But if you're prepped and you're ready and you feel good, yes, absolutely. You want to enjoy, because that's how we also get the consistency and sustainability.
Yeah. Would you lean more towards, weight training, strengthening over cardio? I feel like I've seen just in the health and fitness community, definitely more of a push. And I follow a few local doctors that are like, we should definitely be, building our butts, building our backs. Like we need to put on muscle, especially as we age. There's a lot of health benefits to strength training.
Yep. Yeah. And I think even, I think we have to be mindful of how we label things, right? Because when someone says cardio, immediately they think of running, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we've been and put people in the squat rack for a long period of time for a lot of reps.
Right.
And I was getting cardio.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think it's like, we run our circuit classes, right? Our boot camps, and we've got stations, and it's 45 on, 45 off. These clients can go as hard as they want to push, but you're getting tagged, and there's usually a running type station, but there's so many different ways that we can apply cardio. But again, it goes back to if we're not set up to handle the load of something like running. Another prime example is, so I played a year of basketball in college, right? I love the sport of basketball. But if I'm playing basketball to get in shape, that's backwards, because I need to get in shape to play basketball.
Sure.
The reason why I was in shape at 20 wasn't because I played basketball. I was playing basketball because I was in shape. And those two can marry. But I think there's a big thing we got to look out for when we're trying to get thrown out onto a basketball court with variabilities and a lot of force absorption. I mean, when you jump, you're putting arguably potentially like 7 times your body weight into your body, right? So we want to just make sure we're strong for that. And that doesn't mean I need my clients to have a triple body weight back squat, because a lot of times, I want to see how long their hip flexors are and how strong their hip flexors are in certain exercises. I mean, I've got a client right now who, for 6 months to a year, we weren't really doing a lot of compound lifts at all. He had a car accident when he was 18, neurological stuff on his left side. So we've just been building up that left side. And now, after about a year or two, we're getting like in the mix with more of these bigger lifts. But if we only focus on the big lifts, we're not looking at like the unilateral with his imbalances, right? His left leg, his right leg, that, because we have overuses, whether it be sport, past injuries, things like that. So we just want to make sure that we're supporting the body before we kind of just send it out into the wild. And I think another misconception is that cardio is going to like trump eating habits, and that you have to do cardio to get lean.
Right.
And I think science is behind this, but I also feel like in our experience, you're never going to outtrain a poor diet.
Right.
Right. And I've seen enough of the stuff you're talking about, whether you've been doing carnivore for a long time. And so it's like, that is going to be the backbone in a lot of ways of what we're trying to do.
Yeah. And that's a great segue, I think, into the nutrition aspect. And like I said before, it's here at the clinic, it's kind of hard to really walk someone through, a nutrition plan, or just educating them on macros and caloric intake and just all these key factors. And that's kind of one big reason for this podcast and bringing people on like you, is to educate everyone on that, because it does take some time to really understand and educate people, as I'm sure you know. So a couple of questions on that. And I think I already know the answer, but do you ever start someone more on a nutrition plan before fitness? Do you do them at the same time? And then what would you say? And people ask me this too, like, what's more important, my nutrition or my fitness? Is it like 80-20, 70-30? Can you answer that? And then I'll ask you a few more specifics.
Sure. I would say to that, when we get someone, so the first thing I feel like what we specialize in is strength and mobility, right? So moving well and being strong in those positions, right? But with that, I would say we have a almost like a monitoring approach to nutrition, right? And I think nutrition, man, dude, it's all over the place, right? Whether it be carnivore, high fat, low carb, high, like it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So what I tend to do, and what we've seen as probably more successful, is it's less about the specifics of what our client is doing and more about the fact that they're just paying attention to it.
Yeah.
Right. So if I can get someone to track, like the dude I was telling you about who's down 20 plus pounds,
Right.
Like I've set him up with, like, not arbitrary, but like, hey man, let's try to hit this level of protein. Let's keep the carbs and fat below this. I did that at the beginning. I maybe adjusted it once. And we're not nutritionists, right? We're not dietitians.
Sure.
And so he's just sort of like, he doesn't miss. He's messaging me through our app like, hey, can I have something other than black coffee at Starbucks? And I'm like, hey man, everything's lawful, just not expedient. That's 1 Corinthians. Like we can, and so it's just making sure, like, back to the financial analogy, like you want to build wealth, we got to pay attention. We got to pay attention. So we just need to pay attention. And we've found that in ourselves. So I always encourage my clients, look, anything I'm asking you to do, I'm doing it. Right. The workouts might be a little different.
Sure.
But I'm tracking my food, right? I'm checking off our habits and tasks through our app. Like, I know for me, even as a fitness professional, if I'm not paying attention, there was a point where I was like, yeah, I got this, cool. And then I started tracking again. And I was like, bro, my protein is way down.
Yeah.
Everything's off, right?
Sure.
So there's just a paying attention to, but more specifically within your macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fat, we always focus on protein. And I know it's like almost cliche at this point, right?
Yeah.
Where it's just like, we just keep hearing it.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think we're pretty served with protein. I think it's like epidemic levels.
Yeah.
Just in our modern American diet.
Sure.
And you've got a pretty good experience too about not even doing a ton of like strength training, but she was really dialed in on a program at one point and saw some huge successes.
Yeah, absolutely. I really at the time only had enough mind space to get up and walk. That's all I could do.
Wow. Okay.
Because so much was going on at work and of course home, like there's just so many things. And so mentally I only had the capacity. I just need to walk. I need to walk forward.
Yeah.
But I really tightened down my nutrition.
Okay.
And I tracked and I knew what was going in. And so
real quick. And also the tracking your measurements, you were making sure there was progress photos, your measurements, like we got to know what we're shooting at, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's definitely kind of to the point of what you had asked. Like, I think when people come on, we're picking them up where they're at, to your point. And so we have found when we did not have the capability to monitor nutrition, that it is hard to do one without the other. And so to his point, yes, we specialize in strength and mobility, but we do absolutely feel like nutrition is a huge piece of it. We've thrown out percentages before. I don't know if we feel comfortable throwing those out, but we do feel like we have to monitor. We have to have those macronutrient ratios correct to be able to get some progress.
So for someone that might be listening, that's like, what is a macro? Can you just quickly walk through very quickly what is a macro, and maybe some key things to look at on labels?
Sure. Yeah. So a macronutrient. So essentially, nutrients are things that our bodies need to sustain and support us, right? So macro, big, right? These are your grams, right? You've got carbohydrate, protein, and dietary fat.
So three.
Right? So you've got
three
those
main ones people should track.
Yep. And then you've got your micronutrients, which are, your vitamin Ds and all that. And that's like a whole nother gamut, right?
Sure.
But with macros, all right, so what we found you want to really focus on is, what are we eating? So obviously, if something's processed, highly processed, right, and there's tons of ingredients and you don't know what they all are, like, look for things that have minimal ingredients, right?
Yeah.
So obviously, if you get ground beef or bison or steak, like, you want it from a good source and things like that. But we want to make sure protein is a priority.
Okay.
And then I would say,
so someone's counting their macros, or percentage wise, what would you say?
Yeah, that's tough. We talked about this last night, and I was like, I don't know if I'm qualified.
Yeah, you do. I mean, just generalizations is fine.
I would say from a gram perspective, if you're a male, if you're an adult male, I think 150 is a baseline minimum.
150 grams of protein.
150 grams.
Yeah, now, just kind of a baseline.
I think that's a good goal. Okay. I think if you're a female, 100 grams is good.
Okay.
I do think though, like a gram per pound of body weight or desired pound, right? Because let's say you're like 350 pounds trying to lose weight. Like, we don't need you to do that. Maybe we stick around 200, 225.
Yeah.
And what we found is, if you can get your protein right, a lot of times everything else course corrects.
Right.
Because you're more satiated. Right. And then if you're focused on that.
Right.
And the problem is pure protein, which is like a chicken breast.
Right.
Is not real palatable.
Sure.
And this is kind of how we look at it. Now, people have lost weight and leaned up on everything, right? And there are specifics, like people who, like, this is their bag and they specialize in this.
Yeah.
My approach to it, and our approach, is we want our protein up. I would like the carbs a little lower, and I don't mean like zero.
Yeah.
But like, I think under 80 to 60 grams, I think, is a good goal, depending on your caloric intake, right?
Sure.
Like, if I've got someone who's an athlete or something, they're eating a little bit more.
Right.
And then fat, I think we keep it moderate because we need it, right? We need that. And I think fats from, sources like avocados and I think good grass-fed butters, egg yolk, stuff like that.
A good ribeye every once in a while.
Yeah, man. Turn it up. Turn it up. Yeah.
Red meat's kind of got a bad name over the past few decades, but
nah, dude,
it's making a comeback.
It is, man. And I think like anything, too much of anything is bad, right? Like, if I get 800 grams of protein a day, like, this could be a problem, right? But I also think, there's times where, as a 200-pound male, most days I'm getting 250 plus.
Okay.
And I think some of that though is depending on what you're trying to do training wise, and then within reason, try some stuff out, like within reason, like, let's not go wild, but like, okay, so 200 grams, like, people say, well, how do you get that? Like, the intentionality of it, right? And just paying attention to it, and then starting where you are. Like, don't think like, all right, I'm getting 40 grams a day, and then I'm going to just jump to 300. Like, we're probably going to have
work
some
into it.
Issues.
Yeah. Do you find, Tatiana, with females versus males, there's any difference in, giving them nutrition advice, or kind of the same?
Yeah, I think at the foundation, it's pretty much the same. Again, just those protein goals and making sure that we're going for that. And then everything else kind of shakes out. I would add too around the carbs. When we say carbs, we're thinking more of a carb source, like a vegetable or a fruit. Yeah. So not necessarily things outside of that. We're not saying not to, but when we speak about carbs, that's what we're talking about. But yeah, I would say from a female perspective, the thing that I would add in from a nutrition standpoint is not getting discouraged.
Okay.
Because I feel like we easily can get discouraged if we don't see the results we're looking for and the expectations that we have in our mind. And so again, it comes back to then we quit.
Yeah.
And so I think for us, the biggest thing is to not get discouraged, to continue to stay consistent, be
Mhm.
sustainable, and try things. If you're finding like something's not working,
Right.
then we've got to try things.
Yeah.
And I know too, we run into clients that they're sensitive to dairy,
Sure.
because we always talk about eating a lot of eggs
Right.
for protein,
Right.
or to your point, maybe they're vegetarian or what have you. So we're always trying to work around that as well.
Yeah.
But in terms of the protein sources, we're usually looking at the red meats, chicken, eggs. We love collagen. And I think the other thing that we do, I did say eggs, right? Oh, broth.
Okay.
So I found that, and he does it as well, but I do feel like from a female perspective, we're looking for something early in the morning to start our day with, but that's quick.
Mm-hmm.
And we have really found a hack in bone broth.
Okay.
To be able to bring that protein in. So we were just talking with a client last night. And she's like, I don't know what to grab in the morning. And I said, well, what about bone broth? And
Yeah.
she was like, whoa.
Right.
So and then that just starts your day off in the right direction.
Yeah.
And we've heard that from, our functional medicine coach. And so we've implemented that, and that's been huge for us.
Yeah.
So I would definitely recommend that.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on, the nutrition side. And I mean, we could probably talk for days on this topic. I mean, there's so many.
You've got a whole thing we haven't even talked about with the carnivore.
I eat carnivore. We won't get too deep into that. And I do think there is a genetic component with dialing in your macros too. Like Brienne's try to eat the way I do a little bit. She's like, my body does not like it, and it doesn't do well with it. And I've kind of tweaked some things in the carnivore diet too. So, but I think, if you're on this general road, you can tweak as you go and find what works well for you. But I think, kind of the high level things for me, just hearing you, is measuring. If it's not measured, it's, how do you know if you're improving on it? That's a big thing. Having a coach, a mentor, or someone to kind of encourage you, having that accountability partner, I think is so key. Even if you know what to do, just having someone in your corner helping you along that journey is huge. Because a lot of people are like, oh, I know what to eat. I'm like, well, why aren't you doing it then? You kind of need that accountability.
Man. And you partner. Make a good point, dude. And we talked about this last night. One of the scariest things that someone can tell me is that they eat healthy.
Right.
Because it's just wide open.
Right.
Like it may be something that's actually okay, but how much protein are you getting? Right. Like there's and we don't need to like be obsessed. I get it. Like this is our profession, and we love this, and it's maybe we're something's a little off here. I don't know.
I wasn't gonna say anything,
but okay, this is actually an intervention. Like our whole family comes through the doors. But I think it's like understanding there's health, right? Like basketball's not bad for your health, but it may not be for your like actual fitness.
Sure.
Right. It's like running's not bad. The same way a gluten-free version of something is probably better than the non-gluten-free version, but it still may not be getting us to where we're trying to go. Right.
Okay.
So we just want to be real careful about like these definitive terms, because that's the crazy thing about the human body. I think there's goalposts, right? I think we'd all agree.
Right.
Hey guys, soda, fast food,
right?
Probably don't need it.
We haven't even hit on alcohol.
Right.
That can just crash
exactly
any kind of results
so
there.
So those things, I think we establish the boundaries, and then within the boundaries, like, this is how I eat. This, like, we do things a little different too, right? Because everybody's makeup is different. So don't be afraid to try something, but ultimately, is what I'm doing, fitness, nutrition, bringing me closer to the results I need, right? And then don't think that it has to be astronomical. Like, there is such a power in simplicity with this. And honestly, that's how I became a coach, because I keep learning things that people are allowing me to understand, because I'm not that smart. Like when you start talking like crazy, I'm like, dude, I got nothing for you, but I know we need to move like this right now.
Right.
But you
don't
gotta
have to overcomplicate things to get good results.
Dude, you just gotta like know your bag, know your niche, and just stay focused on that, and just know that I know we can't help everyone, right? But that the beauty of the human body is, and the frustrating thing sometimes too, it's a puzzle. So when the same way I'm sure you're doing in your practice, when you come to us, I know where your ailments are, but we're gonna try some. Oh, that hurts. All right, let's try to do it this way. Okay, this is getting better. Great. Next day, okay, this is better, and then we track everything. Oh, I feel like I'm not making any progress. Okay, cool. Well, your incline dumbbell row is up like 20 pounds.
Right.
So I know you've got more muscle on you, and I know you're getting stronger.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why we got to make sure we track, we check our weight, progress picture. The problem is no one wants to take a progress picture when they feel fat.
Right.
But that's exactly when you need
fast,
to.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me get, we host these boot camps, and people are like, yo, let me get in shape first, and then I'm going to come.
Right.
We're like, no, we scale it. So you get in shape by coming.
Right.
You know what I mean? But we get it. There's got to be a lot of empathy and a lot of sympathy there.
Yeah.
Because the space is crazy, man.
Yeah.
And look, there's just we got a lot of highlight reels out there, and it's not like, I don't think we all need to go the other way and just start posting failures all day long. And but I think we need to acknowledge that this is a journey, right?
Yeah.
And you might just look up and say, oh, wow, look at the progress. I didn't even know because I was so focused on the process, right? And so that's what we want to make sure we do, is walk with them.
Yeah.
And I know that's what you guys do here too. And I think there's so much power in that.
Yeah. No, that's wonderful. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I kind of think of this analogy. Sometimes I'll say you can't steer a parked car. It's like you kind of got to get going on that journey, and then you can steer. But if you just don't move forward, you can't steer yourself in the right direction.
Exactly, man. We're working for the you of 3 years from now, right?
Right.
Because you always know you wish you would have started.
Exactly.
Right. It's like, man, if I would have, like I always tell I'm training a 16-year-old, right? And they got all these squishy joints, and I can do whatever I want with them.
Right.
And I'm just like, man, if I had this at 16,
right.
But I didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
But you do.
Right.
It's
all perspective.
Yeah.
Somebody that's 60, 70 is like, you kids. I'm like, that makes me feel so good.
Oh,
I just turned 40. I'm like, they called me a kid. Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe we'll kind of end on this. We can hit on a couple more things here, but you guys drink raw milk?
We do. We just got on the train. Shout out to Western.
Well, yeah, we got a couple.
so tell me about, I don't know if a lot of people know, why would you drink raw milk? Why can't you buy it in the stores? What are the health benefits? Why is it illegal to sell it?
Can we stop recording?
No. Yeah, right. So why did you guys start drinking raw milk?
Well, we got a friend of ours. Well, you actually were kind of the focal point to this raw milk train. So why don't you, because this way I'm not liable.
Right. So again,
we can always cut it out if we need to. We'll contact our lawyer. And
right. So I had heard about it from, again, our functional medicine coach.
Okay.
And she had talked about the benefits of raw. And there, and also we had noticed that Skylar, our 4-year-old daughter, would have reaction
to just regular store-bought 2%. That's interesting, because that happened to our 7-year-old. She'd drink milk all over the floor, switched to raw, no problems anymore.
Exactly. And so I'm actually going to flip that. That's how the journey started, because someone had mentioned to me, hey, have you tried raw?
Yeah.
I bet you that would be okay. And in my mind, I was thinking everything was the same.
Right.
Milk is milk.
Exactly.
Or dairy is dairy is dairy. And the more we started to look into it, we realized that some of the processes that go into the store-bought milk could be what is causing the reaction.
Right.
And so that was the first thing that kind of led us down the path. And then when we were going down the path, we continued to hear raw milk, it's great. There's so many benefits. So we finally tried it, and we tried it with Westerlook Farm, which they are amazing. They actually are.
Where are they at?
Creekers as well.
Oh, okay.
They're in Carlton.
Oh, okay.
Amazing, creamy, amazing milk. So
so I think some people think raw milk is going to be like this bitter, yucky. I was kind of surprised. I'm like, okay, here we go, raw milk.
Right.
Because you hear raw.
Yeah.
And you're like, raw eggs, like this is going to, I was like,
It
this
just
is
tastes
so
like milk.
good.
It's
like
so
really
good.
good milk.
And I'm just thinking, someone just got this right out of a cow. There's no way this is going to be good. I'm like, this is amazing.
And I don't think we'll ever go back because of that experience. And so the first benefit we'd heard about is it's not pasteurized. It doesn't go through any process. And so your body can take it better. And so we gave it to Skylar and she can drink it and she has absolutely no reaction, to your point, like you said, with your 7-year-old. And then the other thing that we've actually learned along the way is it's a perfect whole food. So it has every nutrient your body needs. And in fact, we just went to a workshop and found out that
was that the milk and cookies workshop?
The milk and cookies workshop.
Instagram?
Yes.
I told my wife, I was like, hey, we got to go on this milk and cookies tour.
Yeah.
We're also thinking of homeschooling our kids. I think you guys do that too. She's like, that would be a perfect field trip day.
Oh my goodness. We'll let you know when they do it again or send you the website because it was amazing.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so, wait, what were we saying there? Sorry.
Like the benefits.
Oh yeah. And so we learned about the processes and we learned additional benefits in terms of your gut, how it helps with your gut and coating your gut. So now we're drinking it first thing in the morning because that coats the gut and helps just your system work a little bit better. Yeah. The other thing, the whole perfect food. All the nutrients that are packed, you can actually live on just raw milk for days, for a really long amount of time, just drinking raw food.
Just like babies,
or raw milk. Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly how it was taught to us at this workshop. It's just like a baby. They lived on just milk alone. Yeah. That's exactly what's, this milk is, packed with all the nutrients that you need.
Right.
And so we are just kind of figuring out, experimenting with timing. And so now we're doing it first thing in the morning. We'll do 4 ounces each. And then after a workout. Yeah. So that we can fuel again, post-workout.
No, that's great. And, proceed with caution with the raw milk. I know there's, disclaimers and there's a certain reason why they started that process. And there were some things that happened a long time ago. I don't think we have time to get into that, but why they kind of cleaned it up. But there's, I think, a lot of misconceptions about raw milk that people don't fully understand.
Well, I think too, it's important to realize also with any of this, like there's almost like a testing, right? Where you're like, and we don't like, that's the hard part with nutrition, I think specifically, is I don't really know what 250 grams of protein is maybe helping or hindering, or could I do something a little different? And so I think a lot of this is hard because we can't really, are these vitamins I'm taking in the morning, like some of it's anecdotal. I know there's science behind these things. Like we clearly need to support and sustain our bodies. So I think that with that, like we can have fun with the process, right? Of enjoying that, to where someone says, yo, try raw milk. And it's like, I thought like I was going to take a half cup of this and I was just going to be like out of commission or something. Right?
So you were like me, just waiting for it.
100%. Well, and Darcy, who runs the farm, was like, just ease into it. You know, like just
don't guzzle a half gallon of milk right off the bat.
Though you want to, because it tastes so good.
It does.
Right.
Yeah. And so Darcy at Westerlook, that's one of our dealers, as you would say, Tony. The other one, so she actually had dried up her cows as they were having babies. And so during that process, we actually found another place, which is Helios Farms, which has great milk as well. Okay. And there's a pickup site right by our house, so it happened to work out. So Westerlook Farms, Helios Farms, great products.
Yeah, you just, that's awesome. At like 12 midnight, you meet this guy on the corner. And then you just say, like, hey,
my wife's like, I'm going to text you an address. There will be a cooler over here. You go grab 2 jugs. And I'm like, what are we doing, hun?
That's legit. That's what I told him.
Yeah.
That's legit.
Don't ask questions.
Don't ask questions.
Yeah. How much are you paying for this? Don't ask.
Leave cash.
Yeah.
I wired the money.
That's funny. Oh,
no,
man.
it's funny. But well, awesome. I think that's most of the time that we have. So any last things that you want to say or mention, anything we didn't cover? And then I also want, if someone wants to get a hold of you, they want to work with you guys, I also want you to mention, where can they go, Instagram, your website, Where can people find you?
Just get a hold of Tony. He's got my number.
Yeah.
Call Tony. Yeah. Make your next rep the best rep, just like keep going. Right.
Uh-huh.
That's just what I would want to leave people with is just be patient. It's noisy, man.
Mm-hmm.
And it's intimidating. That's the other thing is like when people show up, we know that they're already in a really vulnerable place.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to try our best to help them understand like this is hard. And I don't want you to ever feel like you can't be open about the challenges
Mm-hmm.
or think the littlest progress. Like I think people look at fitness professionals like, oh, they're judging me because and we razz people
just
about
come as you are
and stuff like that.
Come as you
Uh-huh.
are,
Yeah, for sure. And we have fun with like, hey, what are you eating? Or if I get a client that's like, I'd be like, hey, my man, what are we doing here? What are we doing? That's how McDonald's or,
right.
But like, I think in all seriousness, we just have to acknowledge this is hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's just hard.
Yeah.
And our society is set up for us to fail.
Right.
It's easier.
It's all uphill.
It's cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I think that we got to get the ball rolling, but I promise you the other side of it
Mm-hmm.
is way better than anything like from a, that you would not want to do in terms of like eating a certain way or eating fast food or the things that trap us. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's putting in perspective, like for us as believers in Christ, this is not about me being physical. Like this body's gone at some point,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I love doing athletic things, and there's times when I do get too wrapped up in it.
Mm-hmm.
But understanding, like, we want to sow seeds for His kingdom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we don't want this to be just an earthly endeavor. This is the
Mm-hmm.
net He's given us.
Yeah.
But I just want to encourage people to like, just stay the course and just be patient, and just know too. This sounds weird, but like, you're not special. We're not special. Like we all have different ailments and things we have to deal with, but
You're not that special where the same system won't work for you for some reason.
like it can. It may be harder, or you may have past injuries or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, but like I used to just identify with I'm inflexible. I
Mm-hmm.
just thought I'm born inflexible. And
Right.
there's genetic dispositions to these things, but we can get ourselves more flexible,
Yeah.
right? I'm still trying to play in the NBA, but
Yeah.
my
You'll get
left
there.
knee is. See, Tony, this is why I
says.
need to keep you around. But I think it's like the aspiring and the pushing for something that gets us to all these other places, right? Like we may say, okay, I want to be a world-class, triathlete. That may not happen, but the journey to get there is probably going to produce some fruit along the way.
Absolutely.
So it's just trusting that,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think what I would add is start.
Just get going.
Just get going.
Yeah.
Kind of like what you
Car,
said. Yeah. Don't
Yeah.
be a parked car.
Yeah.
Start and try not to stop
Yeah.
and just keep moving, whether it's lateral, it doesn't always have to be, going forward, but you got to start.
Yeah.
And then in terms of finding us,
Mhm.
I would say our website, bysfamilyfitness.com.
Okay.
And then on Instagram, Bys Family Fitness, and just
Okay.
reach out.
And it's BUYS.
Mhm.
Okay.
BUYS.
like
yeah.
making a purchase.
Right.
Buys.
Buys.
Yes.
Oh, that's
Bys
great.
Family
Easy to
Fitness.
remember.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Well, I just want to thank you guys for taking time out of your busy lives and coming here and recording this. I think this is going to bless a lot of people for many years to come. And so thank you for being our first guest and just adding so much value
Honor,
out
dude.
there.
From day one,
So
man.
hopefully you had a good time, and we'll, in a couple years or next year, we'll have you back on again, and maybe we'll niche down on some of these topics.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we love that.
thanks for coming.
All right,
Thank
man.
you,
All
Thanks,
right.
Tony. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Well,
My
thanks
dude.
guys
Oh,
for
man.